I had a thought last night. I was looking at the car float hull and it looked a little high against the apron. So I did some experiments. I laid it on some sheets of 80 thou styrene to allow for the estimated thickness of the water. I put a sheet of 15 thou styrene on the deck, which is what I'm planning to use for the tie plates, and a piece of 55 thou rail, sorry, code 55 rail, and it actually looks like it lines up perfectly. I can raise or lower the apron bridge if I need to, but I'd like to keep it as level as possible for reliability purposes. If it does end up a little high, or if the water ends up thicker than I anticipate, I can file the bottom of the hull off just a little bit. I have made provision for that. Anyway, at the moment it's looking like it could end up at about the right height, so I'm fairly happy with the way it turned out. Something else that I thought of after I did it was the rubbing strakes that I put on yesterday. I forgot to distress them before I did so, so I've had to do it in situ, and it was a lot more difficult. The front surfaces were easy with the hacksaw blade, but getting in between them took a lot longer than it would have done if I'd remembered to do it before I glued them on. Anyway, I think I've recovered fairly well from that, so time to get on with detailing the deck. I will check in with you again later. Well, I've been working on the barge for some time now, and although the hull is taking shape very nicely, there's been a bit of a setback with the detail parts. If you remember, I said I was going to scratch build masters and cast my own parts. Well, let's take a look at what's going on there. I have my mould. Here's my masters. Some of them didn't make it out of the mould in one piece, but that's not normally a problem. The problem is that I haven't been able to get the resin to fill the mould cavities properly. It's just too viscous, and I don't know what to thin it with. I even tried the Envirotex Light, figuring that I know how to thin that, but still I ended up with nothing usable. So, change of plan there. The access hatch cover was fairly easy to make, so I'm actually making enough of those for the entire barge. Well, actually I've got more than I need here, so once I've cut them out I will just select the best ones. I also found online some cleats and bollards which I have broken down and ordered, so there's going to be a bit of a delay while those come. I'll check in with you again later, let you know what the progress is. Hi, I'm back again. I did manage to get down into my train room yesterday and worked on it all evening. I got a very long-winded task done. Let's take a look. This is what the barge hull looks like now. Last thing I did last night, I got all the tie plates marked out, cut and glued in place. That was by far the most tedious part of the task so far. There are more than 300 of these little guys on just that 2-track 8-car float. Once I got everything marked out and cut to size, actually installing them went fairly quickly, but it was just the preparation work that just seemed to take forever. Anyway, they're not all exactly the same size. They're close, and I'm hoping that by the time I've got a heavy coat of weathering, because most of it's going to be rust anyway, once I've got a heavy coat of weathering, I'm hoping that they will look close enough that no one's going to notice the imperfections. Anyway, that's how far I've got. The next task is to install the rails. Originally my plan was to get all the deck hardware attached and get the red oxide primer on before attaching the rails, so that I don't get paint pooling underneath the rails. But I don't think that'll be a problem. I used 15 thou styrene, a little bit thicker than what would be considered scale, but I think that'll give me enough clearance that it won't actually plug with paint. Anyway, that's how far I got right now. The deck fittings still haven't arrived. Hopefully they should be here in the next couple of days and I can get it finished. I will check in again with you later. Bye. Welcome back. After the resin casting failed for the detail parts, I found some white metal parts online and I ordered them. And I waited, and eventually they came. At least some of them came. While I was ordering parts, I also ordered the Walters harbour tug and the crane and the parts that I would need for some barges that I plan to build later. So basically the same cleats and bollards in smaller sizes than I need for the car float. Anyway, when the package arrived, the detail parts that I needed for the car float were not there. Came with a sorry note, no longer available. So I've had to go to plan C, which is to laboriously scratch build everything. Let's take a look at what I've been up to. So here is the approximate arrangement that I've decided on. I'm going to have 4 of the cleats at this end, 1 in each corner, and 2 side by side there because there's a locking mechanism in the middle. So if I put a cleat behind it, it might foul. At the other end, I'm just going to put 1 in the middle sideways. I have photographs showing cleats sideways at the ends. I think that looks more interesting. And then the barge that I'm more or less copying, well, using as an inspiration, has the double bollards in the middle, about that far apart. I think that's an interesting looking arrangement. And then the access hatches will go in the middle of each gap. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I need 12 access hatches. And of course I need 2 car bumpers as well. So let's get back to building those. I'll check in with you again later. I put the access hatches on and decided I like the look of them raised up a little bit. So what I've done is I've cut some rings from tube, which I'm going to put them on, and I have a spacer. Once I glue one down, I'll put that around there, and I'll be able to file them off so that I get them all exactly the right height, so that the access hatch covers look like they're seated properly instead of just being, you know, loose or wobbly. I've seen a variety of different styles in pictures, and I haven't copied anything, but to my mind they look as though they would do the job. The only thing I haven't done yet is the locking mechanism, but I think I'm going to get on with attaching all the details and then come back to that later. So hang in there and I will check back with you when I have another progress report. Well, I've spent most of this afternoon adding all the detail parts, so the car float is almost done. Let's take a look at it.